Hello again, this is Kyle McNairn for the Divided Comic Book Group, and this is the second part in the two-part tutorial on how to clean your scans. So, where we last left off was we had just finished adjusting the curves for this image here, so that we can make the lines darker and look more crisp against that white background that we had. So, what I just did was I merged all the visible layers by going to Layer, Merge Visible, and now what we're going to do is we're going to create two new layers on top of this curves one layer. Now what I'm going to do on the top layer here is I'm going to grab my brush tool, make sure I have white selected, and I'm just going to white out some of these lines here that I don't want. Now the reason I'm doing this is because, well, there are two reasons actually, I should say. The first being that I find it looks a lot neater and cleaner when you do the lines on the computer, and secondly because sometimes, even though the artist uses a ruler, their lines aren't completely straight. So that can take the reader out of the experience when he notices that lines aren't parallel, aren't straight. And as the cleaner, your job is to make the artist's work look as good as possible. So I'm just going to clean up as much as I can here. I'll change the brush size again here. 25. Just going to get rid of all these grungy looking lines. As you can see, some of these just aren't straight enough. Get rid of this grunge here. Especially some of these lines here, you can really tell that they're not straight. Now I wanted to discuss this in the other tutorial, but I forgot to. If your group or your team ends up working with ink, then some of these steps you might not have to do. But the steps I showed you in the last tutorial are always good to follow, because when you scan them on the scanner and you go to scan them, sometimes you still get that grungy background and the lines aren't as dark as they used to be. So if you follow those steps, you're going to get really nice black crisp lines, and that's what you want. You want them to look as good on the computer as they looked on the paper. So that's all I'm going to do for now. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my rectangle tool here. Style I'm going to select is this one right here. And I'm just going to go and I'm just going to create a box around where the panel should be. Now all it is an empty box with a stroke value, and I usually set the stroke value to 8. I find it looks better. And you're just going to do that for all of these. Now I'm going pretty fast right now, but you want to take your time when you're doing this. You really want to make sure that you line up these panels. You don't want to rush anything for sure. Finish up here. Now once you have the panels down, you can always go back into your layer 2 there and erase what you didn't get or what needs to be erased. But I'm going to skip that step, as it's a long process to make it look that good. Now we just finished putting in the panels, and as you can see, it already looks a lot better than it used to. Now once you're satisfied with the places that you put in the shapes, all you have to do is go select all of them and rasterize, and then I usually merge the layers to minimize the space of the file. Now, what I've reserved this layer 1 for is that's for our redrawing. Now, what I mean by redrawing is I mean lines that need to be redrawn because you put white over them or the scanner didn't pick them up. What I mean are lines like these, lines like here, And even there's some more lines that if you looked hard enough, you'd probably be able to see them. Now, I'm just going to show you a quick trick you can use to fix up these lines and make them look nice. You want to go back to this layer here, that was all the layers we merged. Select the clone stamp tool. Now I call it the rubber stamp tool, doesn't matter what you call it. And make sure you have the aligned here clicked off. It needs to be off. If you have it on, you're going to mess things up, so make sure that's off. And what you do is you hold down the Alt key and you get about a crosshair that comes up. Click what you want to clone, and you can use that wherever you want. Now I go back to layer 1, and you just want to use it like a brush. Keep drawing here. As you can see, I just extended this line of her flashlight so that it goes a little farther, and I can do the same here for this gentleman's hat. I'll go back to the curves layer and grab this part here. Just going to switch layers here because the white's going to be ahead. There we go, fixed up his hat. Any other places you see that you want to fix up, you can use this strategy. You can switch them around. As you can see, I have the brushes tab open here, and there's a clone source right beside the brushes, and you can save up to 5 clones, and you can switch the angle, you can switch the source, how big it is. It's a really useful tool, so if you ever need to redraw anything, don't worry about it, and if you ever need to erase something, don't worry about that either, because the clone source is a very useful tool. Now, that's the end of this. We finished up by cleaning everything. Of course, you can take more time, but we put in the panels, and we put in all the redrawing that we need to do. This is Comic Nerd. Come back again so you can take a look at my text tutorial and my SFX tutorial. Thanks again.